We call the Rules Committee meeting of Wednesday, July 6, 2011 to order. We have a quorum. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We now have ordinance amending the title for the Playground and Recreation Board.
Move approval move approval of the amendment to the ordinance.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we have the Housing Commission presentation.
Good evening, Alderman. I'm Joanne Salome. I'm chair of the Housing Commission, and I'd like to introduce other members who are here. Yolanda Bender, who is vice chair, and Omar Curry. And other members who aren't here are Richard Mosley, Cynthia Reed, Kevin Kane, Reed Heigelman, and Richard Morgan. And then, of course, Alderman Tenden is on our board, our commission now, too. You've been provided with a brief summary of the accomplishments of the Housing Commission over the last several years and during 2011 and going into 2012. And, well, our goals for the next 2 years. And the last several years have been a bit bumpy for our commission, but we are proud of our accomplishments, especially the Affordable Housing Comprehensive Plan Task Force, which was ably facilitated by our prior chair, Susan Monroe. The Families in Transition Rental Assistance Program has been very beneficial to young families working to get on their own 2 feet. And then we are happy that the council did approve the addition of an alderman to the commission. And then we helped facilitate the recent rehab of the Over the Rainbow facility. The Housing Commission is now energized going forward with the recent addition of new members who have great expertise, and so we're at our full membership now. And then we are so excited to be working with Mary Ellen Poole, our city liaison, who lives and breathes housing and certainly knows a lot. We feel that the goals we've set for the next 2 years are reasonable and achievable. And the focus is on increasing affordable rentals in the city, expanding rental assistance, continuing foreclosure counseling, improving the capabilities of the CHODOs, and educating Evanston residents about affordable housing. So if you have any questions about the summary or the goals that in the material you've received, we'd be glad to answer that.
Any questions? Alderman Rainey?
Joanne, you say that rental assistance from Affordable Housing Fund to 30 households through the FIT program totaling $12,200. Is that right?
Okay.
What I don't know if it's just the wording that's confusing me. What does $12,200 represent? Maybe that's a better
Well,
question.
the assistance given to 2 families.
To 2 families?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
usually $4,000 or $5,000 or in that range.
I understand too, but
Yeah.
what is the 30 households? What?
That would have been, what was that time period? From its inception? The 30
it
families.
doesn't make sense that it follows there's no amount then to the 30 households?
Okay. Okay. Mary Ellen just put together the amounts for the, current times, not going back since the inception. But there was the number of families that have been helped.
Are we only assisting 2 people now, 2 families now?
Yeah, we've wanted to expand that and hope to, in the future. One of the ideas that came out of the task force was that if the council would just approve a certain amount that we could expend during a year, instead of coming to the council with a family at a time. And then that way it would facilitate helping these individuals, families, in a more timely manner. Because by the time it comes to our committee and then comes to the council, there's a couple of months right there sometimes, but depending on the time frame. And it gives a little, I think the group, was it Housing Assistance? What is the? Connections for the Homeless. I mean, they do a very good job of working with these families and helping them.
I sure would like to get more reports, because I certainly don't support giving money to your committee to determine who to give it to. I mean, I'm having problems with the program anyway, because it's highly selective, and there are plenty of people out there who need it, and if they're not connected to the right people, they're never going to see support from this program. So I think it's a program that we should abolish, because it's not available to everyone.
Well, we'd like to, to use some other kinds, some of the home funds, and to expand the capability of helping more families.
Alderman Holmes?
Has there been any discussion about combining or consolidating the CHOTOs?
Yes, Mary Ellen just did a review with the CHOTOs, and that is in the works. And working with HUD to, make them more accountable and combining them where necessary. So we felt, 5 too many.
Our CHOTOs, we have 5 current CHOTOs right now. Oh, can you hear me? Sorry. We have 5 CHOTOs currently right now, and every year they have to go through a certification process through the city, and HUD looks at that to make sure that they have all the requirements to stay a CHOTO. We have the applications in-house right now, and we're currently reviewing them. At that point, we can decide what makes more sense for people to stay CHOTOs. Should they combine? Should they just stop being CHOTOs? We've had some CHOTOs that have expressed that maybe they're done being a CHOTO and they're maybe out of the business right now. So we're looking at strengthening the ones that should go on and helping facilitate any kind of mergers that should happen as well.
Great.
Alderman Tendem?
We are required to work at least with one, aren't we? Yes. Getting back to the previous question or item about the FIT program, we did brainstorm some other ways of getting the word out. I agree that it's not, it's a very selected group that even knows about this. Do you remember, we talked about religious groups, we talked about other community groups to promote this within, knowing that they would have a very close eye on some of their people and could recommend them for the program.
Yeah, the problem is having more organizations that could do the case management that would be involved in working with the families. So, we're looking into that. So, it'd be best to have more than one organization involved in that, that's for sure.
Alderman Holmes?
There was a time, I can't remember, we had this discussion recently with someone else. There was a time when there were many more people involved in the FIT programs, especially the churches. And there was partnerships or collaborations with other social service agencies that could do the case management, and while the churches, took care of that piece. And sometimes, we throw out the baby with the bathwater, so we may want to look at, again, in terms of how we do that rather than just sticking with one agency, because I too, have some concerns about the selection process in terms of who's getting service, the same as Alderman Rainey just expressed. And we've have expressed that to Connections as well.
Okay. Yeah, well, that is one thing that we have, started to discuss and want to move forward with as one of our goals.
Alderman Rainey?
Could we at least get a report on those that we're serving right now?
Sure.
Alderman Tendem?
Could you tell us a little bit more, and I know there have been several discussions about how, trending toward rent, servicing people with rent rather than home ownership, and how that's, how we're approaching that.
Well, one of the goals is, is in working, once we get the CHOTOs straightened out, to have them work on rental projects in the non-NSP areas, so that we can cover more areas of the city. So there are several, goals there of expanding that. and one, including better education of the residents of Evanston and landlords about the need for affordable housing. So we're going to look into this, the rental assistance program through HUD, through the home funds. And so that can get a little complicated to set up. But that is one of our goals, to, instead of just using Evanston funds, that we go to using home funds to assist people with their rental needs. But that's something that might take a little time.
We are in the process of producing $18.5 million of affordable housing, putting it back on the market. What in the world could the Chodos do to help with that? They couldn't, one couldn't even sell one house. Another group couldn't even sell 6 units. I've never stopped having problems with the people at 602 Mulford. I just don't know. I think it is time to stop, evaluate our Chodos and say, you tried and you failed, and just move on. If we have to have one Chodo, we have to have one Chodo. It's the survival of the fittest. Let's pick the one that has done the best job and move on. I just think that we're wasting so much time. When you say we're going to talk to landlords about the need for affordable housing, what do you mean by that? What do you possibly mean by that?
Well, that
you're going to ask them to reduce their rent?
Going into using the home funds, that you do need to educate, landlords about how that rental assistance would work. We want the Chodos to focus on rental, not
Well,
purchase.
I don't want them focusing on it in my ward. I think we have enough rental, we have enough affordable rental housing in my ward. We have one census tract with NSP2. Enough is enough.
That's
you want to
fine,
take them up to the 1st Ward or to the 7th Ward or 6th Ward. But I wish you would consult with aldermen when you start making these plans, because I think I need some balance.
No, I understand that. I know.
But
your
I don't know what
concerns.
you mean you're going to start talking to the Chodos about rentals. Are they going to start buying buildings?
Well, that's one thing that we'll be working with, of what, projects that would work for them and work for the city.
How can they buy a building? They can't even sell the units. What resources do they have to buy buildings?
Well, there are home funds that need to be used, or we lose them. So we do need to get some projects going.
All right, so how much money do we have in home funds to buy buildings with for the Chodos? You all are the ones I read are in charge of this, so you got to tell me what,
For the home funds, we have we get about $500,000 every year. So as of right now, we have not spent any of our 2010 or our 2011 home funds, so we have approximately $1 million in home funds to spend going forward.
All right, so we're going to ask the Chodos to buy some buildings with $1 million and to establish an affordable rental program in those buildings. How many buildings do you think you're going to buy with $1 million? I don't know who would give them a loan. So I really think there are other things more important right now to be doing, and that doesn't seem like something that we should have as a priority. An $18.5 million of affordable housing money. Why don't we wait and see how that works? Why doesn't the Housing Commission work with Brinshaw and whoever the brokers are and trying to help qualify people or search for people who could qualify to own or rent that housing? No?
Well, I think, we did have some funds that we did have to vote to, and did present to the council that would go in with Brinshaw, because, again, it was money that we had to assign to a project or else we would lose it. you know. And so we get this money every year. So I would welcome your ideas on where you would want us to focus, and everybody on the council.
Mr. Bupkowitz?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Just to kind of amplify Ms. Poole's comments, we really are looking to reconstitute the team that we have in Evanston working on affordable housing projects. The Chodos, as you all are well aware, have had some difficult times, and we really need now to reconstitute a team that makes sense. We do have this home money that we need to spend, and we think that we can constitute a new team with perhaps Chodos here, perhaps other affordable housing developers who operate in Northern Illinois who previously have not been here. Where there are also some opportunities to take that home money and leverage it into the NSP2 project. So, those are all things that are at work, and I think the Housing Commission is helping staff sort through those options. But the model that has been in place for the last several years really has proven not to be as effective as I think the City Council would like to see it. So we will continue to work on that. We will continue to look for better models that make better sense, and those include identifying different partners. And those could be existing Chodos that are reconstituted. It could be other Chodos outside the area, other affordable housing nonprofits that operate here in Northern Illinois. So you'll be hearing more about that, and I think it's an important role of the Commission to help formulate those strategies and bring them to the Council. And part of the reason this is the first of these reports from all of our boards and commissions is the talent and expertise that we have on our boards and commissions, and the Housing Commission is certainly among that group that we want to tap to develop these kinds of strategies. I think the members of the Commission understand the struggles that we have. Staff understands the struggles that we've had, and it's time now to come up with new strategies. And part of tonight's discussion really is to raise those issues, to get the feedback that we're absolutely hearing from the Council, so as the Commission makes its recommendation over the next several months, fall into winter likely, you will have had the benefit of tonight's discussion as sort of a preview. But it's a critical issue of spending that home money and spending it in a variety of different ways so that it has maximum benefit in the Evanston community.
Alderman Holmes?
Could you share with us some of the ways or some other alternatives to using the home funds that you've talked about? Could you share that with us? I'm not. This is the expert.
We're looking at using the home funds in a variety of ways, focusing, as we've been talking about, mostly on rentals. So that could be anything from preserving current rental housing. It could be building new, but there's not a lot of empty lots in Evanston. We're really going to focus on the non-NSP2 areas, which we had mentioned before, solely to not create competition against ourselves. And also to spread out affordable housing so it's not completely focused in one area. We're looking at, there's really creative ways you can use foreclosed buildings in other wards or vacant buildings to try to leverage some home funds in those transactions. We have been really, really looking at other partners, and which we had mentioned earlier. There's some great partners in Evanston currently, but we have some great partners in Chicago and the other northern suburbs as well. So we can leverage home funds in some of their projects in Evanston. Is there any other ways any other questions?
Well, no, that's what I wanted to hear, is that kind of thing, because I think that we need to look at particularly other wards in terms of foreclosures, so that we don't have to end up with the issues that we have in the 5th and the 8th ward, or our 2 census tracts, that we might be able to, we don't need to worry about building new buildings. Let's take some of those rentals there now and do those, with home funds. I would think that would be a way that we would certainly, want to go.
One more thing I just remembered, that we have briefly talked about a potential subsidy program using home funds. This is being kind of talked about at the HUD level, and they're really talking to us about using our home funds in this way, because as we all know, a different housing program called HPRP, which is helping a lot of families with rapid rehousing during this economic crisis, will be running out shortly. And so we're concerned about those families that will come to us looking for that help for a few months or a few years or whatever we need to do to help them get over that hump. So this is one way we could potentially answer that call. We don't know. We're still really in the research phase.
I know that Jeff sent out Jeff Murphy sent us out a list of the vacant buildings and foreclosures not so long ago. I mean, it's a really huge list, and there's some almost in every ward, if I remember correctly. So I think that would be a good jumping-off place for the commission to start to look at.
I mean, I'm a realtor, so I know the housing is on sale, and so now is the, out of someone's, dire situation can come the opportunity to help someone else. And certainly you can get properties in Evanston at levels that you couldn't a few years ago.
Right.
And so we do want to look into the other wards and not, concentrate to just a couple of wards. And now there's an opportunity to do that because things are cheaper.
Alderman Tendam?
Thank you. I just want to say I have a lot of promise. I think there's a lot of promise in this board. When I came on board, I certainly knew very little about the housing situation in Evanston. I'm still learning a lot. There's a lot to know. And secondly, I think a majority of people on the board are new. The mayor did a huge recruitment to get a lot of new blood to fill every seat, and the attendance has been almost perfect at the most recent meetings. So I think we're on our feet. I think we're going to pick up speed and really and take off in whatever direction we can, providing we get a lot of input from council and other organizations, staff, whatever. But we're in a good position right now.
And we certainly welcome your input because everything comes back to you.
Any other questions? Alderman Rainey?
I know that almost every single property that I've referred to the NSP2 program that is within that census tract is a problem property that does not qualify for NSP2 purchase, rehab, and either rent or sell because it's either vacant and pre-foreclosure, nobody lives there, nobody's paying anything. The banks are talking about should they buy it or shouldn't they. The bank owns it, they won't sell it. So if this money can be used for these properties that I consider in limbo and probably are somebody's worst nightmare, the owner, the current owner, that would be an excellent way to use it. For us to buy these properties and start land banking them and then sell them to people who know how to manage them. And I'm talking about some of the big management companies and owners in this town. There are people in this town who own thousands of units of rental housing, and they do it very well. And, I just don't see that. I don't see that we really need any more units of affordable housing until those units of affordable housing that we have are occupied. I mean, there's also doesn't seem to be a lot of thinking going on about taking people and putting them in housing and then leaving them. I mean, I know the FIT program is supposed to counsel and, but I don't know how successful that's been. But for example, 1710 Dodge, we spent lots of money building that property with the Evanston Housing Coalition, Alderman Holmes.
Right.
And sure enough, within not a very long time, one of the units went into foreclosure. So, and now NSP2 is paying again on a brand new property to renovate it, purchase it, and put it back on the market. I mean, we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on 2 units of housing. I just think that we need to step back and really think about this. I think we also need to think about, and the Housing Commission could really be helpful in taking a look at the affordable housing regulations we have regarding new construction. When somebody builds a new building, a condo building, they have to set aside a certain amount of affordable housing. How reasonable is that? I would like to have a full-blown discussion on that, especially now when people aren't building things. I asked a couple of weeks ago, because I couldn't remember if our affordable housing set aside included new rental housing?
No,
It does not,
Mhm.
okay. See, now, where does that make sense? How does that make sense?
But couldn't they also make a payment in lieu of setting?
Yes, but I'm saying.
So many of them took that option.
Right, but I'm saying, and it's a lot of money, though. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a lot of money, and I think it's a deterrent to some extent to new development. And we did that when we didn't have $18.5 million. So this is a gift that we got, and so I'd like to see a discussion of that.
I believe that was one of the recommendations of the task force. I haven't looked at them lately, but that ordinance should have included rental.
Well, I'm asking, should it include either now,
Okay.
new construction? And because we're going to get a lot of new rental housing being built. Just some thoughts.
I just have a couple questions. First, are you looking at short sales or just foreclosures?
Well, we haven't gotten to the point of, purchases yet, and Chodo's, again, they've been going through the recertification, and, they have not none of them have brought a project to us for quite a while now, just
Okay.
because of the last experiences. So, again, I feel, I've been on the commission for 4 years, and it has been bumpy. I mean, it takes you 2 years to figure out what the heck's going on and learn the lingo and everything. So because of the housing collapse, for everyone, why it has hurt, the programs that we've funded. So I feel like we're starting anew. We have a new board with a lot of expertise. We have a new city staff, so we're really looking to carefully move ahead and take on projects that make sense.
My second question, of the Chodos that you're working with, how many own properties that they're renting?
I'm going through my head right now. I want to say 3.
Okay. Of those, when you're looking at this evaluation process, I would request that you look at the calls on property standards and police calls to those rental properties. I know of one for sure that has a huge tenant problem. Police calls and property standards calls, I would not recommend giving money to a Chodo that is disrupting a neighborhood and will vehemently oppose giving them any money. Any other questions?
Who are the Chodos that are renting?
Off the top of my head, I want to say, and you might know even more. It was Reba. I think Reba Place,
yeah.
HODC, and I think George Gauthier with
Yeah,
EHC, Evanston
Yeah.
Housing Coalition,
He
owns
does
some
have
rentals as
rentals,
well. So the other one is ECDA, which is the Evanston Community Development Association. They're not. These are the other ones that I think, and then we have the Land Trust that does home
Yeah, they
ownership.
don't, yeah.
George has a room in the
Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, thank you very much, and thanks for all your hard work coming before us. We hope to see you.
Okay, we'd like to hear from you.
Of course. Thank you. Next on our agenda is procedure for annual evaluation of city manager, and I think the city manager is going to talk about that.
Yes, the city manager gets to worry about the annual procedure for his own evaluation. Madam Chair, members of the committee, last year the city council performed an evaluation which, the best I could tell, you were satisfied with the process, and that was a questionnaire that had been previously used by the council for Mrs. Carroll. That questionnaire was distributed to the council. Each alderman completed that. There was a aldermanic subcommittee of Alderman Holmes and Alderman Nguyen that then reviewed those questionnaires, compiled a summary of those questionnaires, and then there was a executive session scheduled of the council to review that as a group and then to review that with me. So if that is of your liking, once again, I think it's up to the Rules Committee as part of your charge to coordinate this. If Alderman Nguyen and Alderman Holmes are willing to serve as the committee again, or if there are different aldermen that would wish to serve in that role. I think tonight would be an appropriate time to make that decision, confirm that you're satisfied with the survey instrument that was used, and then we'll look for a date, probably the latter part of September. We'll get the surveys out before the August break, give the council a month to complete them, and then have a meeting, executive session, probably on a Thursday night, sometime mid-late September.
Any question?
Oh, well,
Alderman Holmes?
if I remember correctly, we had a conversation afterwards that there were some questions or some areas that we wanted to see some changes in. So I would suggest, City Manager, that we send the instrument out to the council to make those changes or recommendations before we send it out for the evaluation. I have no questions. But you remember?
Alderman Rainey?
I would suggest we get hold of the minutes of the meeting where we discuss the problems and refresh our collective memory.
I don't think we didn't have minutes.
But I do remember that there were a couple that,
If I looked at it, I could probably even remember what they were. I have my notes at home, probably I could look at. But there were a couple of areas that we wanted to make some changes in the instrument itself.
Okay.
That's the only thing that I would have to suggest.
Alderman Rainey?
so in the meantime, could we all get a copy of the current thing and then nominate Alderman Holmes and Wynn to continue their fine work?
Second.
You did it really, it was an excellent job. I'm not just patronizing.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Next item is new business. We have one in small print down here, discussion of the powers of the mayor. Do we want to put that on the agenda for next meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Was there something specific or just in general?
This is all I
think
have.
she's powerful enough. Do we have to discuss it?
Madam
So it
Chair,
should be a
members of the
discussion.
committee,
We're all here, though.
I think this is a long-standing hold item in the committee, so you either can wish to schedule it or you could delete it, but that's the only other item we have pending, other
Okay.
than the now what will be monthly presentations by the boards and commissions. Next month is the Human Relations Commission.
Alderman Rainey?
Why don't we ask the mayor for a report on what she wants us to do about that?
Okay. All right. Alderman Tendam?
No, I agree. I can't think of a specific reason. I don't know that we should put it on the agenda.
Okay.
I mean, she's
The
going
only
to be
thing is that we
marrying
just should
people.
all be here if we're going to discuss it. That's the,
No, yeah, absolutely. I have actually two items that I'd like to bring up for possible topics. One is we're currently hearing from boards and commissions, and previously we've talked about asking our state legislators to come to rules to give a presentation. It would be nice to get that on the calendar, not just Senator Schoenberg and our representatives, but possibly also Commissioner Deborah Shore from Water Reclamation, maybe even Larry Sufferdin. I think it would be good to hear from them, not only from the council perspective, but since we're on television now, for their constituents also to hear from them about what they're doing, how they're working with us. Any thoughts on
Don't we
that?
do that every year? I mean, we do twice a year.
but
We did it in the summer of '09. We did not do it last summer.
Really?
Yeah.
we just skipped a year. I think we should do it every year.
Every
I mean,
year. We used
I don't
to
know
do
why
it
we
every
didn't
year.
do it last
Yeah.
year. We just
And
forgot
I
to
just
do
don't, I haven't seen it talked about or on the schedule, so,
And Madam Chair, is it your expectation that we would try to get everybody here on one night?
absolutely not.
So,
That we stretched out similar to what we're doing at the boards and commissions
Okay.
over a course of a year. I think it would be impossible to schedule them all at the same time, but that we just get them on the calendar when they're not in Springfield probably is best for them.
okay, so we'll start with, so you would have Senator Schoenberg, Representative Gable, Representative Biss, Mr. Sufferdin, and then Deborah Shore.
Yeah. Yeah. Alderman Tendam?
We do now have another rep that reps a portion of our 8th ward.
Thank you. I,
Well,
or will. Thank you for,
I think it's, if we, as long as we have it, we might as well use it.
Yeah, it would be nice if she just came and saw where the 8th ward was.
there you go. Let's invite her. And then my second to put on the Rules Committee agenda for next time is something that's come up a couple of council meetings is during citizen comment, when people make non-factual, completely incorrect information that goes out, we don't correct it. And under council rules currently, we are not to respond to citizens when they come up and talk, not about their opinion, but about if they're giving out incorrect information, and having a mechanism to immediately correct that incorrect information. Part of the issue is when we are silent, that is acquiescing to saying, yes, we agree, even though we know that many of the things that are said are incorrect. So I would like to put on the agenda for the next rules to talk about how to make sure that we're distributing appropriate information during council. And I know, I don't know if anybody has any comments or thoughts on that. I know Alderman Wilson, I think it was a couple council meetings ago, there was a response when there was something completely not correct, and I know that you were concerned about that.
It's fine, have it on the agenda to talk about.
Okay.
You don't want to talk about it now?
I think
It's not
we.
on the agenda now.
Yeah, it's not on the agenda
Oh,
now,
okay.
so I'm just thinking.
My recommendation would be that the city manager correct statements that are not factual. I mean, and that would be it. For example, for someone to say the city is bankrupt, it would be important for somebody to define bankruptcy and why we are not in bankruptcy. Things like that, or, like the sale of something is imminent when it's not.
Okay, so we'll get on the next agenda. Anything else? Anybody move to adjourn?
Move adjourn.
No, I have a motion.
Oh, thank you.
Microphone.
Oh, that's right, you do it. I'm sorry. I forgot about your motion.
Pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statutes, ILCS 120/2A, I move that the City Council, sitting as the Rules Committee, convene into executive session to discuss agenda items regarding litigation. These agenda items are permitted subjects to be considered in executive session and are enumerated exceptions under the Open Meetings Act. These exceptions are 5 ILCS 120/2A and C11.
Anybody second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, can we adjourn this meeting?
Are in executive session now.